Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into my second video. So continuing with the theme of Argentina, we'll be looking at the era of River Plate's dominance that featured a lethal attack known as La Maquina, or the Machine in English. This video will be focused on this team through the eyes of the hobby and the sort of cards that can be found from these legends to collect. The image on the slideshow shows the most famous incarnation of La Maquina, which includes Muñoz, Moreno, Pedernera, Labruna, and Loustau. Officially, La Maquina is considered to have lasted from 1941 to 1946, but there were earlier events of significance that contributed greatly to the existence of La Maquina that really need to be understood. So before we actually look into the cards and the specific players, it's important to understand La Maquina and how it came to be. So prior to the glorious 1940s for River Plate, the 1920s and early 1930s were an era of disappointment. By 1931, River Plate had gone 11 years since their first and only title at that point in time. This led to a steep decrease in attendance and overall popularity of the club, especially when neighboring clubs were beginning to position themselves as greats in the Argentine scene. To counter this decline, the club executives began to invest a massive amount of money into the club with the hopes of turning around the club's trajectory. The subsequent spending spree that the executives would go on to do, would earn River Plate the nickname of Los Millonarios, or the Millionaires in English. The major signings that were completed by the executives during this time were that of Carlos Peucelle and Bernabe Ferreira. Peucelle at the time was a very prominent player in the Argentinian footballing scene, and his signing for 10,000 pesos would break the transfer record by some margin in 1931. The following season in 1932, the record would once again be broken with the signing of Ferreira. And when Carlos Peucelle came to the club, he ended up bringing a man that would change the whole trajectory of River Plate. This man was by the name of Felix Loustau, who was a newspaper vendor and extremely knowledgeable about football. Peucelle expressed the importance of having a successful youth academy, and under Roldan, he explained that he would be able to produce a next crop of intelligent, brilliant, and technical players that would help spur River Plate to greatness. River Plate agreed with the recommendation, and it went on to make Roldan the head of the academy. And under Roldan's guidance, the academy prioritized beautiful and technical football, which would go on to plant the seeds for La Maquina. So looking at the impact of Peucelle and Ferreira, in 1932 River Plate would become champions once again, with Ferreira becoming the top scorer of that season. Bernabe Ferreira quickly became the idol of Argentinian football, and the demand to watch River Plate matches became so high that the executives at the time began planning the building for their current stadium called La Monumental, and this city would go on to be on the other side of the city with massive capacity. In 1935, Roldan's work with the academy began to provide fruits for River Plate. This came with the debut in the first team for Jose Manuel Moreno and Adolfo Pedernera. These two young stars alongside Peucelle would be instrumental in the back-to-back championships for River Plate in 1936 and 1937. At this point, River Plate were at the best point, or were at their best that anyone had ever seen them, and Adolfo Pedernera and Jose Manuel Moreno would become idols of River Plate due to their quality and due to their immense contributions to the club's success over the next decade. So in 1938, after back-to-back championships, River Plate inaugurated the Estadio Monumental, but in the 1938 and 1939 season, River Plate would lose out on the championship to Independiente on both occasions. Following the disappointing match that handed Independiente the championship of 1939, the executives of River Plate decided to suspend Jose Manuel Moreno, just simply due to the lack of professionalism and his constant partying. The decision, however, did not go down well at all with the other stars of River Plate. Specifically, Pedernera threatened the club with going on strike alongside the other starters if the suspension was not lifted. This eventually led to the first strike in Argentinian football history, and the players of River Plate left without telling anyone about their whereabouts and set up camp on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. In the absence of the starters, River Plate decided to field a team of youngsters from the academy, all of whom were formed by Roldan. The youngsters are successful, and amongst the squad was Angel Labruna, who was the top scorer in the final matches of the championship. Juan Carlos Muñoz is also signed from Sportivo Doc Sud and would become an integral part of River Plate. In 1940, when the strike is over and relations are restored, a combined team of Academy products and original starters is formed that would go on to take Argentine football by storm. Looking at the actual era of La Maquina, in 1941 the majority of the squad were now direct products of the Felix Roldan Academy. It was in this year too that Peucelle retired to become the new academy head, and he would eventually go on to coach the first team in 1945 and 1946. During the 1941 championship-winning season, River Plate's front line was D'Ambrosi, Muñoz, Pedernera, Labruna, and Moreno. And in the next season, in 1942, the front line would change slightly with the introduction of Loustau as a starter over D'Ambrosi. In 1942, there was a significance to that season given the fact that they won the championship, but also due to the fact that an El Gráfico journalist became the first to refer to the front line officially as La Maquina, due to the front line's constantly rotating positions and dynamism in the attack. La Maquina is often considered a precursor to the Clockwork Orange style that Ajax and the Netherlands deployed in the 1970s. The era of La Maquina wasn't all smooth sailing though, because in 1944 Moreno would once again fall out with executives and leave the club for 2 years to play in Mexico. Moreno would eventually return in 1946 to reunite La Maquina. In 1947, Pedernera would leave River Plate, signifying the official end of La Maquina. Pedernera's replacement was another academy product by the name of Di Stefano, who would go on to leave a massive football legacy, both for River Plate and for Real Madrid in Europe. Notable players that participated in La Maquina on a rotational basis beyond the Big Five were Aristobolo D'Ambrosi, Carlos Peucelle, Alberto Gallo, and Renato Cesarini. So the achievements of La Maquina included 4 times Primera División wins in 1941, 1942, 1945, and 1947. The early 1940s were dominated by River Plate, and it was this era that saw them consolidate their status as one of Argentina's greatest clubs. La Maquina also won the Copa Aldao on 3 occasions in 1941, 1945, and 1947. The Copa Aldao was a trophy that was contested between Uruguayan and Argentinian champions as a sort of super cup, and was considered a major trophy during that era. La Maquina's achievements would go well beyond trophies. La Maquina essentially changed the way that football was played and also introduced an increased focus on youth development to the Argentinian game. La Maquina also cemented the importance of champagne football into the DNA of River Plate that runs very deep to this day. Now we're going to go beyond looking at the context to the cards and to the players, and we'll look directly at which players were iconic in La Maquina and the sort of cards that are available for these players. So the legendary players from the Maquina that we're going to cover in this video are Peucelle, Ferreira, Moreno, Pedernera, Labruna, and Loustau. I understand that Peucelle and Ferreira were not directly a part of La Maquina, but I believe they are crucial to its existence and truly deserve to be mentioned and covered. I added Juan Carlos Muñoz to the list of legendary players because he was an integral part of La Maquina, but unfortunately it proved to be very hard to find images of cards from his playing days. And I just decided to leave him out for now, but in the future I'll look at doing some research into him and doing a video about the cards that he has as well. So in the next slides I'll be looking to cover some of the earliest cards or stickers that exist for these players. There are a lot of Argentinian cards and stickers out there that are yet to be discovered, so I may have missed out on some crucial cards. If so, please leave a comment and let me know. And if you have images, I would greatly appreciate it if you sent those to me so that I could make a possible future video or just to simply add to the website. So the first player we'll be looking at, and also the earliest, is Carlos Peucelle. So Carlos was the first major signing in River Plate's history. He was signed from Sportivo Buenos Aires for 10,000 pesos. Regarding his cards, the earliest card that I've seen for Peucelle is the 1932 Chocolatines Águila, which is a second-year sticker from his time at River Plate. Currently, there aren't really any known cards or stickers that feature him at Sportivo Buenos Aires pre-1932. And all of the cards that are shown here for Peucelle are extremely rare and very hard to find. Um, so the Chocolatines Aguila was more of a sticker. It included an album that came with it and was distributed by chocolate manufacturers. These stickers were meant to be stuck into albums, which has led to a difficulty in finding unstuck copies of this sticker, and it's almost nearly impossible to find them in really pristine condition. Another iconic card that really needs to be highlighted is the 1935 Argos of Peucelle. In terms of eye appeal, this is like one of my favorite sets that I've seen. The design is stunning and the portrait's incredible. I would absolutely die to have one of these in my collection. And thank you to Al from El Rey Collections for providing images of this card. There are other cards too throughout this video that are imaged and provided by him. When I spoke to Al about this specific card, he described the Argos set and the Argos cards as having a very beautiful glossy front that makes the colors really pop out. Al also explained that from the set overall, he's only come across a few of these cards over the years of collecting, and these cards were distributed in packs of cigarettes. I'd assume it'd be cigarettes Argos, but it could also be from another brand, but it's most likely that it's from Cigarrillos Argos, similar to how Cigarrillos Dolar released cards in the 1920s. And the final Peucelle sticker we'll look at is on the far right here, and it's from the 1936 Leyes de Fútbol, which is also another cigarette card. This card features Peucelle's portrait in the season where he would champion alongside Pedernera and Moreno. Now going on to the second major signing for River Plate, we'll be looking at Bernabe Ferreira. So he was the signing following Carlos Peucelle that would greatly transform the fortunes of River Plate and almost instantly turn them into title contenders in the 1932 season when he was signed, eventually going on to win that title that year as the Golden Boot. Ferreira was signed by River Plate from the Club Tigre in 1932, and from there he would greatly contribute to both River's successes and to the eventual formation of La Maquina. The first known sticker that exists for Ferreira is from the 1931 album Phoenix, and it features him in the Tigre blue kit. The sticker was released in the season prior to his signing to River Plate. It is very possible that there is an earlier sticker that exists, but it is highly likely that this is Ferreira's rookie. The first known cards of Bernabe Ferreira in River Plate are from his second season in 1933. The two cards from that season are the Cigarrillos Ranchera and the Cigarrillos record. The Cigarrillo Ranchera features him in the old-style River Plate jersey, which may indicate that the Ranchera was released slightly earlier than the records. The Cigarrillo records were from 1933, and it was a successor to the original 1925-28 Cigarrillos Dolar, and both cards, the Dolar and the record, were made by the same manufacturer. And both the Cigarrillo Ranchera and the Cigarrillo Record were cigarette cards that were included in packs from their respective companies. The last card we want to look at as well is the Argos from Bernabe Ferreira. It's just an absolutely stunning card, as you can see, and it features him in a portrait shot with the iconic red sash that we've become very accustomed to seeing River Plate wear in their games, and has become just an iconic jersey overall. Having any one of these four cards in your personal collection is an incredible achievement, and if you've been able to do so, it's absolutely like something that's incredible and definitely deserves a lot of praise. And now moving into players that formed the La Maquina as we know it, we'll be looking at Jose Manuel Moreno. So Jose Manuel Moreno was amongst the first of the graduates of Felix Roldan and his academy revolution at River Plate that would go on to debut in the first team. His debut would come in 1935, and he would go on to become like a pivotal piece for La Maquina in the 1940s. His rookie can be found in the iconic 1936 Leyes de Fútbol set. These cards are cigarette cards as well, and the supply of these cards has almost completely dried up. These cards are almost impossible to find now in any condition, And in terms of eye appeal, this card is definitely my favorite. Just the oval portrait and just the design is very simplistic but very beautiful as well, and the photography is excellent. The other two cards were provided by Al, like images of it were provided by Al from El Rey Collections, and the other notable cards of Moreno's were from the 1945 Figuritas Bicicleta set that featured a full body cutout of Moreno in the iconic River Plate kit, and the other card is from the 1946 Cigarrillos Olympia, which features a portrait shot of his with the iconic mustache on the triangular card. And the Figuritas Olympia is one of my favorite sets in terms of eye appeal. The next player we're looking at now is Adolfo Pedernera. So Adolfo Pedernera ascended the ranks of River Plate alongside friend and academy teammate Jose Manuel Moreno. Pedernera would make his debut in 1935 and would go on to be another immensely critical person in the success of River Plate and the overall legacy of La Maquina. His rookie can be found in the stunning and extremely visually appealing set of 1935 Argos cigarette cards. This true rookie, once again, is nearly impossible to find. And of the three that are imaged here, it's definitely my favorite one to watch, or my favorite one to look at. Just the color and the portrait shot are just absolutely stunning. The other two cards that are shown are from the 1936 Leyes de Football set and the 1946 Figuritas Olympia. Information or even images of cards from the 1940s era of Argentinian football proves to be quite challenging to document and to come across. There are definitely cards from the early 1940s that I'm aware of. It's just very difficult to find images or information of such. And the 1935 Argos card was provided, or the image of it was provided by Al from El Rey Collections. I'd highly recommend checking out his channel and his Instagram. I'll make sure to link those in the bio for you guys to go and watch a lot of his useful resources about cards from players, especially from the vintage era. And he documents a lot of stuff that just isn't documented enough in the hobby. Angel Labruna was the most prominent member of the youth academy players that were called up to play for River Plate in the absence of the starters during the strike in 1939. So during the strike, Labruna easily rose above the crop due to his excellent ability to find the back of the net. When the strike was over, Labruna was quickly integrated into the first team, where he would go on to become a crucial member of La Maquina. The earliest known card for Angel Labruna is the 1942 Chocolatin Laponia disc, but I was unfortunately unable to find an image of the disc, so instead I'll share some images of cards from his playing days from a variety of sets. We'll look at my personal favorite one first, which is the 1946 Figuritas Olympia. Just a stunning card once again with the portrait shot on the triangular card. These 1946 Figuritas Olympia actually came with an album, and in the album, these triangular figurines were meant to be stuck, and I think they came in sets of four, so there'd be 4 teams per album, and they released multiple albums over different iterations. Another card for Labruna from the 1946 season that can be found is the 1946 Figuritas Campeonato, which is in the shape of a disc. So this disc features a portrait shot which makes Labruna look very young. This card is quite beautiful, but the colors just aren't as vivid as in the Olympia, which may lead people to just not be as attracted to the card. But regardless, to be able to find any card from the 40s of these iconic players is very difficult, and if you come across one, it's important, in my opinion, to be able to grab it when you can. And now looking into the 1949 Figuritas Campeonato, this one is an oval disc from later in his career that features another beautiful portrait shot of him in the River Plate kit. And the final player we'll be looking at is Felix Loustau. So Felix Loustau was another product of River Plate's incredible academy during this era. In 1942, Loustau would debut for River Plate and quickly insert himself into the wing position as a starter. He was predominantly a left winger and is considered to be one of Argentina's greatest wingers of all time. Loustau's earliest known card can be found in the 1945 Figurita Starosta, which is on the left. It is highly possible that a card from 1942, 43, or 44 does exist for Loustau, but this one is the earliest known one that I've been able to find. The Starosta is a stunning card, and it features a unique design. The cards from the Starosta set are cut in the shape of the crest of the team that the player is on. So, for example, Huracan has a crest that's in the shape of a balloon, or a blimp, and Huracan's card is cut in this shape, which makes for very interesting design combinations with the portraits. The portrait shot in this set is excellent, and really it's a must-have if you can find. The next card for Loustau is the 1946 Olympia, which contains all the stars from this era of Argentinian football. Once again, another iconic portrait shot with the red sash. It makes the eye appeal for this card simply amazing, and it once again narrowly beats out the Starosta for my favorite looking Loustau card. The final card is the beautiful 1949 Figuritas Gran Película. This card does not appear often at all and features a film style design that has the player's name and portrait in the middle of a film border. And as of today, a complete checklist does not exist for this set, at least that I'm aware of, but if anyone has more information or cards from this set, please leave a comment and reach out. And that concludes the video for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you made it all this way, then you're absolutely a champ. I'd like to give a special thanks to Al from El Rey Collection for helping with the images of the cards for the players from La Maquina. I would also like to thank the members of the Vintage Soccer Discord for their support in this project to document vintage soccer cards from all around the world. If you want to learn more about vintage soccer sets, I would recommend watching my other video on this channel about 1920s Argentinian sets. You can also check out my website that serves as a database for vintage soccer sets called ClassicSoccerCards.com. Links to the sets discussed in this video will be found along with a link to my Patreon to help support me in my project to document as much vintage soccer as possible. Thanks guys for everything, and until the next one.